Well, good morning, everybody. We are excited to kick off our very first Leadership Day, which also coincidentally happens to be our very first virtual Leadership Day. And we're excited to have local groups and, of course, all of y'all as individuals represented from all across the state. I think that we had I was still corresponding with people this morning, but right at 70 folks that are going to be joining us today. So that is an awesome turnout, and we are very glad that y'all have decided to spend a few hours with us today. Our theme is sort of going to be our strength is local, right? So we do talk some about our state program, but really our state program is just the strength of you all locally. And so
Is it not working?
No, it's okay. You can advance them for me. So we've got a few opening slides that we want to share with you, and you probably know that if I'm involved, then I'm probably going to open up with some sort of an analogy. This is the Mississippi River, right outside of Memphis, I believe. And so when I think about our Master Gardener program, statewide, in many ways we're kind of like a river, but the health of our river, our cumulative impact is really all about the health of our streams. And so you all represent the streams across the state. This is where the biodiversity is, right? And so it's all about supporting local efforts which have local impact, which are made up of local people. And that's really what we're here today to talk about. And I know that y'all are already strong in many ways, and we just hope that this gives you a few ideas and areas of discussion and things that you can take forward to make your local groups even stronger. So as you may guess, I wish we could all be somewhere in the same room right now, and hopefully we will be again soon. But even though we couldn't really be all together, we are really excited that there are folks literally from one end of the state to the other. We have Northeast and Sullivan County all the way to Memphis and our Shelby County crew. So there are definitely some benefits to doing some aspects of virtual because it's accessible to all of you, no matter where in the state you are. And so the big picture for today is that we're going to be able to connect with people all across the state. We're going to talk some, but we are going to have about half and half time to talk, but time for you guys just to break into groups and visit. So we know that, it's not exactly like being a couple feet away, but we're going to provide as much opportunity for you guys to connect with each other as possible. We hope that today is just a foundation, because we hope that this fall leadership type of concept is something that we do every year, hopefully from here on out, maybe in person or maybe some combination of virtual and in person, so that no matter where people are, whether they can travel, they can still participate in some way. So don't just think of it as today, think of it as kind of the beginning, and think about some things that you liked, some things that you enjoyed, some things that you'd wish we'd spent more time on, or ideas that you have for the future. Because tomorrow morning, I'll send you an email and I'll just say, hey, what did you think? It's not gonna be like a rating scale of 1 to 10. It's just gonna be, how do you think that this could help your local group, and what could we do, next month or next year that would be even more helpful in those regards? And I already mentioned that we had, close to 70 people on. If you want to, in the chat box, just kind of as a way to get us going, tell us, your name, your county, and tell us the last thing that you've planted, the most recent thing, right? So I planted garlic and leeks over the weekend. It's the very first time I grew leeks. So we'll keep that, a little bit personal in the chat box, get it going. And to kind of kick us off and provide a little bit of a big picture context, we did a statewide survey in January and February, which was very ironic because it was January and February right before, the world kind of changed in March. But we had great participation. Over 750 of our folks joined in, and many of those questions were about local groups. And we'll continue to use all of that information. In November, we'll have a statewide meeting where we'll talk a little bit more about that. But one of the really interesting things that we found from that statewide survey was that our volunteers kind of fall into one of three categories, right? So this is statistical. You know, we took all the answers and we divided them out using, statistical procedures. And what we found were these three groups. So, you know, about 70%, which is, you know, great, of our folks are gung-ho, right? Like they are in it, they love it, and they're having great impact around the state. Then we had about 15% who were kind of like, well, you know, I'm here, I'm in the middle. And then we had 15% who were like, I'm not really sure, you know, what this thing is. And so as we get together and we talk about our local groups, I kind of want us to think about how we lead, how we reach out, how we connect with others in terms of those three groups, right? I think that probably most of us here are represented in the 70%, right? But how do we connect with the 15% who like are wanting to get in, but you know, maybe they're not completely sold, or the 15% who haven't yet found their place? And so if you're interested in a few details about what really constitutes that 15% who are not really sure if this is their gig, there are a few key descriptors, and they are folks who haven't seen where they can put their skills to use, or they walked into a room and they weren't sure if they felt like they were welcome. And those together kind of lead to them not personally feeling that this is a rewarding experience for them. And so when we think about those things, almost all of those key descriptors are things that personal relationships, you know, that trust, that focusing on being welcoming to, you know, new folks that walk in the room, like all of those things that actually could kind of be a little bit in our control locally. And so I just wanted to share a little bit of that data snapshot, you know, hundreds and hundreds of answers, but we can actually distill down to some of the key things that may be a hurdle to people in engaging in our local groups. And so many of those things are actually in our control. So that's kind of how I wanted to open up and to share just a little bit of a perspective of how some of these leadership discussions and investments are crucial and valuable in the local group. I'm going to turn it over to Melody, who has the unofficial title of our leadership guru in our Master Gardener program. So take it away from Greenville.
All right. Thanks, Natalie. And for those of you that know me, you know that I'm very passionate about leadership. I think it is just the fundamental concept that really drives our local organizations. I really, truly believe that it's all about diving deep within ourselves and acknowledging who we truly are as people. And some of you have probably gone through some of those personality type exercises with me across the state. I think that's a very beneficial method to just figuring out who we truly are and kind of where we fit. And it kind of aligns with what Natalie has been talking about already this morning, because as you see there, every local organization across the state needs this local culture, and it needs to be positive, and that's what's going to help maintain and sustain us and our dynamics all across the state. And it starts with us as individuals. So just to throw this up here, this is something that you're going to be seeing throughout the day, because the entire Tennessee Extension Master Gardener Work Group is going to be presenting some of these modules. Now, the first 4 here, we've already presented those at other times throughout the year. I know my first one was planting the seed on Valentine's Day, so you got the nice little dancing hearts that Rachel just loved, and you know, it took on a little bit different theme from the garden theme. But just to expand on why leadership really matters, and I know that there's a lot of words on here, and I'm not going to talk about all of these, but as I'm talking, I kind of want you to kind of see some of this and kind of get some of these thoughts in your mind as we move through today. So leadership at the local level, it matters so much, because what we're doing is fostering transparent communication. We're creating cohesive teams at the local level. You know, we're developing rapport amongst one another, our peers, you know, our fellow volunteers. You know, that's where that passion comes out. And I think today you're going to see passion with the entire Master Gardener Work Group. You know, what we're doing is engaging all peoples, like Natalie said. We don't want to have these cliquish environments where not everybody feels like their voice is being heard. We want people to know that they're individuals and that they can express opinions and ideas without the fear of retaliation. You know, because again, my group hears this all the time. Everybody brings something to the table. You know, we harp on that all the time, and hopefully that's one of those messages that's going to stick. You know, we want to be increasing positive visibility at the local level. You know, it's not just about, you know, our group right here just within our group. You know, that's something that we want to be spreading out and have fingers within our communities for which we're all serving. We want our stakeholders internally and externally to know that, you know, the Master Gardener Association is where it's at, and we're doing great things, and we really want to be fostering that collaboration. That's what's enhancing, you know, the overall program. And it starts again with us as an individual, and then, you know, when we kind of get that self-awareness, and that's where we're gaining that self-confidence to kind of be where you're at today. You know, your peers within your local groups have elected you as officers of your leadership teams or executive committees, whatever those are called in your counties. Some of you are going to be committee chairs and project chairs, and all of that is a huge step. You know, and so again, why all this matters is, you'll notice down here, is that we're just creating that local culture. And that's what today is really all about. And again, just to kind of drive that point home, it starts with us on an individual basis, and then that grows our local leadership and our local programs, and then that just basically helps grow our state program. So again, we're just looking deep within ourselves, and we're continually growing. So here's just a cool thing, just to paint an illustration here. In some of those personality things that I did early on, and I'm picking on one of mine, I don't know if she's on here, but she was in our very first training here in Greene County, and when we did the personality, she fell out totally different. She was still working at the time. So, you know, about 5 years later, she decided to do it with the new intern group, and her personality had kind of shifted. So that's one thing as we do move through today, I want you to kind of keep in the back of your head, if you will, you know, because some of you may be retired and maybe came out of a position where you were boss, and you're going to hear more about that later. But the thing to remember is that we are all in this together, to steal from the COVID cliche, but it's understanding who we are and recognizing sometimes there's some things we need to work on. And that's where this whole point comes from, is growing yourself. And that's why everybody's here today. So when we're doing that on that individual basis, it helps create synergy at the local level. And we're just establishing that culture. And then there in turn, we're growing the state program for all of us to be successful. Just real briefly, before I turn the mic over to Jenny Fletcher so she can be getting ready for a few comments, we are going to spend some time on our last 4 modules. You see there, we're going to kick off with Celeste and Anna, and that's going to be on Cultivate. Then Lee and I are going to tag team on Nurture. Natalie and Greg are going to come to us about weeding and pruning, so that should be very interesting. I hope they have their tools handy. And then Rachel's going to finish us out today with harvest. So hopefully you're going to see a lot of these same things that Natalie has spoken to, and some of the things I've alluded to today. You're going to see why it's so very important, you know, to really never stop learning, to never stop growing, and just to work together. And the last thing before I turn it over to Jenny, I just want to say, from a personal perspective and looking out, most of you have probably been on board with this Tennessee Extension Master Gardener Work Group team all year long, probably for several years, but especially when COVID hit. And they don't know I'm going to say this, but I'm just going to throw this out there. A big reason that we can put forth all the efforts and the energy and create the programs and do the things that we have done this year is because we work really well together. We're all very different as individuals, but we all acknowledge and recognize each other's differences. We can share opinions without, again, that fear of retaliation. We have a foundation of trust that we've all worked really hard to accomplish, and we get so much more done when we can do that. We don't have to worry about each other stabbing each other in the back, throwing off on each other's ideas. You know, we're there to support and build each other up. And when that happens at that small of a level, then we can put forth, you know, more energy and focus on the statewide Master Gardener program. And that's really what it's all about. So just a shout out to the team, including our 3 representatives from across the state. Just a great, fabulous group of people to work with. I can't say more about that. So anyway, what we're going to do next is introduce each one of our grower reps. They're going to share with you a little bit about why leadership is important to them and kind of set the tone before we get into our first module with Celeste, and Anna. So Jeannie, I'm going to hand the mic over to you now.
Oh, great, thanks. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this phase of the leadership series. I'm Jenny Fletcher, your Western Regional Representative, and a member of the Shelby County Master Gardener Group. Those of you that know me know that I'm very passionate about the Master Gardener program. And if you don't know that, just ask Dr. Chris next time you see him. I also happen to be a big fan of the late motivational speaker, Zig Ziglar. He used to use a quote in a lot of his presentations that says, "You are where you are because that's exactly where you want to be." And while that statement is mostly true, during a personal experience, he realized that that's not always the case. You see, you can be given directions and maybe even a map, but if those directions and the map are incorrect or they're inadequate, you may possibly end up somewhere where you really don't want to be. None of us want to be in 2020 again. But sadly to say, we don't know what the future holds, so we must really be prepared to enter 2021 strong and ready to achieve some of our biggest successes. It's not easy to be a leader. The job comes with many challenges and responsibilities, as probably most of you well know, but it's very important and it's a necessary job, and it can be very rewarding. So helping you to do that is precisely what sowing, I can't talk this morning, sowing the seeds of success is all about. The information that we'll share with you today is very well designed, and it's a proven guide to help you develop or improve your leadership skills so that you can become a successful leader within your organization. Many people have done it, and you can too, with the right directions, the right tools, and the right map. So what I hope for you today is that your time with us is very well spent, and I'm glad you could join us.
Thank you so much, Jeannie. Appreciate that. All right, Jennifer, you're up. We're passing the mic to Middle Tennessee.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Salter. I am the Middle Tennessee rep from Rutherford County. Wow, how can I top what Jenny said? She said it all so well. Leadership, it's one of those things that people are really scared to step into. But when you do, the rewards can be so much. And, you know, it's the support that you're given from your membership, just the growth of you personally, it's just incredible. This work group has been really good on support and helping people move along. And it's, oh, let's see, it's early morning here. I'm still focusing. It's really important to have people to support them if they want to go into the leadership roles. People are often worried about it. They don't know if they're going to succeed. And it can be a difficult leap of faith to take. But change in leadership is important. It's important to get new ideas, new vision to fulfill our mission. And I think one of the main things for me about leadership is to let people know that there's always support. There is always support for you to help you along the way. And it's important. So it's good for revitalization. It's important when you have change in leadership, because I think that brings new ideas, new vitality to the group. And I'm hoping that everyone can be willing to step forward next year when things get back to normal, and maybe we can have a whole group of new leaders out there. So it'll be great to see. And so thanks for showing up. It'll be great to see you all this morning.
Thanks, Jennifer. Okay, last we have our representative from East Tennessee, Andrea.
Good morning, everybody, and I'm so glad to be a part of this working group. It is a very strong and cohesive group, and incredibly talented and led by, you know, the coordinators that really lead this way in this group with us. It's important to me to be a part of that. And I probably would not be here if I hadn't myself, in the very first year of being a master gardener, had an opportunity to serve as on the leadership board as part of our executive committee. And I think that was a very inspiring experience for me. And I was able to, feel the enthusiasm from the local group as being a part of the larger group, but also that executive board, because we had some very, very strong leaders. And that was personally motivating for me. So I think that, what we're going to be focusing on today is the role of leadership to motivate. And you have to have that enthusiasm to, get people really excited about what we're doing in the community, and they will follow. I've seen that happen over and over again in our local group. So enthusiasm is one of the biggest things to keeping people involved. Leaders are also really important in times of transition, and certainly this year for all of us and all across the state. Has been a transitional year, to say the very least. And so when we have that strong core of our leaders exemplifying, this is how we continue, this is how we go forward, and setting that tone for our culture, it really helps people to feel a stabilizing center and core to our local group. And we, that leads to everything. It leads to retention and keeping people involved. And thirdly, it's just so personally rewarding to be a part of that growth. It's on a personal level, it's just extremely satisfying to know that you're contributing to the solutions of our groups, to our projects in our communities. We have so many incredible projects across the state, as we have all learned through this incredible series that the work group has put together with all the coordinators across the state, letting us know what all these things are, all these projects are across the state. It's been incredibly rewarding to be a part of that larger picture. So I'm hoping that you will enjoy the day and that you will get a lot out of it, and that you will be rewarded with taking some ideas back to your local groups and making our Tennessee Extension Master Gardener even stronger, as Jenny said, in the next year ahead. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Andrea. And we appreciate the three of you, Jeannie, Jennifer, and Andrea, for serving on this work group. It really provides powerful insight, and they're a great voice for all of you across the state. So tuck that in to y'all's brains, what Jennifer and Jenny and Andrea just shared, because we're really going to be expanding on that throughout today. So we're going to get started with Celeste and Anna, and they're going to be bringing to you the Cultivate module. And hopefully you have sharing. Do you have that capability?
Let's see. So Anna is going to actually share our program for us. There we go.
Hopefully you can see it.
I can see it. Can everybody else see it?
Okay, good.
Yes, ma'am.
It showed up
we're
on
good.
a different computer, so let me a different screen. So I'm going to change my little camera here because I like looking, like feeling like I'm looking at y'all. I like to see your happy little faces here. Okay, so Anna and I have the honor to kind of kick things off with you all today. And so, I mean, you've heard our introductions, Melody went through things. We are continuing on with our modules. This would be the 5th module in the series. And our topic here is Cultivate. Anna, would you move the slide over for me? Can you do that? Or do I do that?
I'm attempting to. One sec.
Well, while we're figuring that out, I do want to just kind of make a few comments here. So, I always pick up things from, hearing other people speak before I get into my session. And I always love Natalie's analogies. And while she was talking about, the health of our organizations, and we're a river, and it's important for all of our tributaries and streams to be healthy because, they feed into our larger water bodies. And I was kind of thinking in my head, if you're from West Tennessee like I am, that picture of that stream she showed was beautiful. But we don't have any of those here. We have more like ditches. So, so if you're from West Tennessee, we're the ditches portion of that. No, I'm just kidding. We will call ourselves ephemeral waterways, because that's what a ditch is, essentially a passage area that occasionally carries water, and it's important for those to be healthy as well. So I just wanted to make that note because I was laughing inside my head when I saw that awesome picture of a stream. I was like, yeah, like we've got any of those. Okay, so are we good to go? Oh, we are good to go.
We're good now, Celeste. Sorry about that.
That's okay, no problem. So this is that introductory slide that Melody was showing earlier, just kind of going through the bullet points of what we've covered so far and what is to come. So go ahead and we'll move to the next one. That was just kind of we've already covered that information. There we go. So what we're going to talk about today in this module is cultivating interest. And if you can see, I've got a bunch of like crazy notes on here because I'm just like been jotting things down as they pop into my head. But what we want to start with, and we've heard this morning already, is we need to create a vision, right? And in order to create that vision, we have to start with ourselves. You have to look inside and have your own personal vision, and then hopefully that will transition over to developing a larger vision within our group. That is going to help with our group dynamics and help everyone feel included and have just that inclusive sense of environment within our groups. And for that to happen, it's very important that we all have a common vision, right? So I am going to throw this in there. So from my viewpoint, as a coordinator, I have a vision of what I would like for our local organization, the things that I would like for us to do and accomplish. But that doesn't automatically translate to what the actual vision of our group is. And if you are a leader, we can transition this, just move it from this aspect over to the local group aspect. Say that you are a project leader in your organization. You have a vision for your project, but that doesn't mean that everyone else in your organization has that same vision. So in order to foster that vision, in order to be a good leader, I found that it's super important to lead by example. People want to follow. You can't be a leader unless people want to follow you. And if you lead by example, you're going to be more likely for people to follow along with you, adopt some of your same visions, maybe even develop that vision by adding some of their own information in here and there, and just developing, again, like they mentioned earlier, that level of trust. People want to follow people that they trust. And so there's several different ways that we could see how this could overlap in our local organization, but it all starts with creating that vision. And if you don't have a personal vision, then it's going to be hard, to build upon that for us to create our inclusive group dynamic where everyone is moving towards the same thing. So obviously our goal is for our group vision to align with our individuals who are in our groups, align with their personal goals. And then that in turn is going to help, what's the word I'm looking for? Enhance engagement, right? So sometimes we struggle with, well, we have all these great things that could be done, but I'm having trouble getting people engaged, getting people to do them. So if we follow that back to the root cause, that's where everything begins, is with that vision. So again, our goal is for our group vision to align with everyone's personal individual goals. And then a byproduct of that will be natural engagement. I hope that makes sense. I'm taking our guru Melody, some of her ideas, and trying to translate them to you. So I hope that I'm getting that point across. Okay, we'll move on to the next slide, please. There, Anna. There we go. So a little bit more here about vision and how we need to internalize this and start with ourself first. So let's just ask ourselves, do your personal views align with the organization's view? And then this touches back on something that Melody had presented earlier. You remember that arrow graphic that she had up on the screen where we started with our personal visions and then went to the local organizations' visions, and then eventually those will reflect our state level organization vision and values. Same concept here. We're working from the ground up. There's no way that we can work backwards. We can't have a state level something saying, this is it, right? And then expect everyone to fall in line. It always is more effective when we come from the ground up, and we've seen that time and time again. So, ask yourself, do your personal views align with our organizations? Are you going to be able to succeed with this organization? Are you going to be able to play an active role in your local organization and help them succeed in the future and reach some of those goals? Let's see. And if everyone has this vision or mentality, two different things are going to happen. The first one is that we're also going to, align ourselves across the state with each other, local organization to local organization. And number two, we're going to be on the path to creating the type of culture or social environment. I know we use the word culture a lot, but, type of social environment that's needed for long-term sustainability for our local organizations. It's great when we get a new project and we kind of have this rejuvenation and this, we have a surge of activity and energy, and then it kind of falls by the wayside again. And some of that is natural. You're going to have ebbs and flows, but our goal should be on that long-term sustainability. And again, it starts with our vision. If our personal visions align with our organization's visions and values, morals, etc., we are going to have that capability to have sustained, long-term sustained activity and involvement from members within our organization. Okay, one more slide, and then I'm going to pass it over to Anna. Okay, and so of course, we always have to consider, how we are going to fit into the group as a whole. And so there's some things that you need to ask yourself. Again, are you able to provide the time commitments that are involved? We'll just pick say you're considering joining like a committee or some type of leadership team or an executive position or something like that. Or do you have the capability to commit for that period of time that's required for that particular position? And then do your skills actually complement that role? Because sometimes, say, well, we need someone to fill the vice president's role. And someone has said, oh, so-and-so would be good. And they ask you and you're like, well, I'd love to serve, but I don't know if my skills, align with that particular position. Don't feel pressured to take positions just because someone recommended you. It's important for you to be successful and for our entire organization to be successful, that your skills align with the skills that are required from those positions, if that makes sense. And then how do other people fit into your vision as well? So, it's everyone, we all have different personalities, right? So say that we're talking about a group activity, you're forming a committee or something like that. Everyone on that committee doesn't have to be the same. They don't all have to have your same ideas or, work drive or anything like that. It's important that we all fill out each other's weaknesses. So this can actually work in our advantage when we have lots of diversity within a group. Something that, person Katie isn't good at, maybe Beth is great at. And so we can balance each other's balance each other's skills in that respect. And if we have personality clashes, just know that that is okay. Everyone that participates in any kind of group activities, this is always going to be a struggle, an issue. And if those situations happen, then we just need to take a step back, reevaluate things, possibly reorganize our groups to kind of cut down on some of that clashing. And that'll make it more likely for that group to be able to succeed. Okay, so differences are good. And that's all I've got. Anna?
All right, so Celeste just touched on a lot of good things about just creating that vision and being one whole group, right? First of all, Celeste, can you give me a thumbs up or down on my sound because I can see you? Good? Okay, thank you. Okay, so in talking about being cohesive, right? That was one of those big things on Melody's board of words about leadership and creating cohesion and encouraging teamwork. And so from here, let's talk a little bit about how we're going to sustain that, right? So if everybody will indulge me just a little bit, we're going to do a little activity. It's easy, I promise. So think about your Master Gardener group that you have right now. Just take a second and think about all the people in it, your projects, how well you work together, what you've accomplished, everything. Okay. Now, do not hit enter yet. Do not send it yet, but I want you to type one word to describe your group in the chat box, but don't send it yet. Okay. Just type it in there and wait. Okay, do we have our word? Okay, when we have it, hit enter. Go.
Oh, look at all of them.
Yeah. Friendly, cohesive, small. Okay, diversified, fun. I'm seeing a lot of fun. This is great. Caring. Be supportive, good. Diverse, good. Encouraging, enthusiastic, passionate. Family, I like that. Friendly, knowledge, engaging, engaged, cohesive, stretched, detached, diverse, supportive, good, committed, awesome. Yeah.
Y'all, Anna calls this a waterfall. A waterfall chat.
A chat waterfall. Yeah. Awesome. Fun. Yes. Yeah, so, okay, good. Yeah. So I appreciate the honesty in the chat because this really is good. And that's what really being a good leader is. So being honest and being transparent about where you are and where you're not. So yeah, this is awesome. Good. Thanks, guys. Okay. So if this is where we are, then we at least have an idea of where we might want to go, right? Or at least we know where we are and we can think about where we want to go from here, right? So we need to, though, look beyond tomorrow because it's not just about where we want to go tomorrow. It's where we want to go in a year from now and 5 years from now and 10 years from now, right? So you have to create this vision, but is it something that's sustainable? Because we can spin up all kinds of visions that are full of all kinds of jargon and fluff words that sound really good, but is it sustainable? Does it fit our group? Is it something that we can personally commit to? Is it something that our group can personally commit to? Those are important questions to ask because if your vision isn't something that fits those requirements, you're not going to reach it. And what you're going to reach is frustration. Your vision doesn't have to match anybody else's. Your vision has to match your intentions and your true goals. That's what it has to match. And it has to also match your definition of success. And that's not going to be the same as anybody else's, and that's okay. But as a group, you need to come together and create that vision, whatever that is. And if you haven't done this before, you haven't done it in a long time, I highly encourage you to, as a group, work together to write your own vision and mission statement. those will be your kind of your guiding words that if you ever have, say, a project that comes up and you're like, we do feel stretched. We are a small group. Should we take that on? You can refer back to that and say, no, we shouldn't at this time. And that's okay. Because it's okay to say no, because if it doesn't fit your mission, because that's when you are serving your community the best, is when you're making the best use of your time and your resources. And when you're serving the mission that you set for yourself, right? So some projects that come across, people that want to do things or ask us to do things for Master Gardeners, sometimes they fit the state mission, but if it doesn't fit our personal mission or vision, it doesn't always work, right? And that's okay. So work on that. You know, make sure that you have a pretty cohesive idea of what you're doing here, and understand that it's important to know what really works for your group, and that doesn't have to match the county next door or the county across the state that's similar size to you. It doesn't have to look anything like that at all. But on top of that, make sure you're keeping a growth mindset. And notice how I said, no, we can take that on at this time. The power of this little 3-letter word, yet, is enormous. Because too, when you're setting this vision and thinking beyond tomorrow, you can set lofty goals. You can set high goals. Your vision for your group doesn't have to be something that you can attain next week. It doesn't have to be something you can attain even next year, but it has to be something that you actually truly can commit to, but you can say, we're not there yet. We haven't gotten those people there yet. And so that helps you create that growth mindset and not to get stuck with, we're not very big. We don't have very many people. All these reasons, all these obstacles, right? But when you say yet at the end, it shows you a path forward instead of an obstacle. So when you're thinking about beyond tomorrow, don't put obstacles in front of yourself either once you have that vision. I thought this was really cool. Melody included this. This is your path to nowhere. This is an actual place in the Smokies I didn't know about. That's really cool. So yeah, if you don't have that vision that's cohesive and doesn't have that vision that, or one at all, that you're really not sure what it is, or you haven't talked about it in a long time, you may be on this path to nowhere. And like was discussed earlier, that you may not know where you're going, or you may end up someplace you didn't mean to be, right? So reevaluating those things often is important. So once you kind of have that, and you have your mission and your vision, and it's not necessarily aligned to everything, doesn't have to match everything, but be, aligned and kind of within the range of what's acceptable for a Master Gardener group, then you have to have a plan. You got to strategize, right? And so think about this. So even if, say, your vision does, when you're starting out, you're like, we don't know what we want to do, and you use the state's vision and mission, that's fine. And even if the county next to you does the same thing, that's fine. But your playbook doesn't have to match. The actual projects you do, the actual way that you run your leadership team, and the way that you do your growth team, they don't have to match. Football teams all have the same goal. Get as many touchdowns as possible, get as many yards as possible. They have the same goal, y'all, but their playbooks don't look the same. That's why football's interesting. That's why football's fun to watch, right? Okay, so that's what makes us interesting, right? So think about that you have to come up with your own playbook, and that's fine, whatever works for you, because your strengths as a team are not the same as the next county's team. Just like Alabama's kicker may not be the same, have the same strengths and same abilities as Tennessee's kicker, right? And Tennessee's quarterback is always, I would like to say, better than everybody's. I'm a UT grad, I would hope so, but here we are. And yes, okay, Karen, yes, we're all going the same direction, but we had different ways of getting there. And yes, that keeps it interesting, exactly. So you're going exactly in the same direction. And so another way to think about that is, I liked Natalie's metaphor at the beginning with the river and the streams. But here's one thing that I think is just super cool, and I love using this for all different types of things. if you think about Tennessee Extension Master Gardeners in like a metaphor for Disney World, okay? Disney World is a really awesome place. Everybody wants to go to Disney World. Everybody wants to be part of it, whatever, right? But each of the parks are different. You will not find Snow White in Animal Kingdom because Animal Kingdom doesn't need a Snow White. It doesn't serve Animal Kingdom to have a Snow White, right? I mean, she could go over there, she could change her clothes out of that dress and she could have fun, sure. But like, they don't need her, right? They have their own vision. They have their own culture there, but they're still part of the whole that makes Disney World awesome, right? So you in your individual county or individual group, your Animal Kingdom or your Magic Kingdom or whatever those pieces are, whatever those details are, that's what it is. So come up with your playbook that works for you and then commit to it. Make that commitment to serve that mission that you and your team came up with. And know that at the end of the day, your success is not built on what you got out of it, it's what you did to serve others. At our banquet last year in Coffee County, or Coffee/Franklin, one of my Master Gardeners stood up and said, and I should just say any words they wanted to about Master Gardener, and they said, when I first got into this, it was all about me and I wanted to learn more about gardening. But now my favorite thing is to take what I've learned and just spread it around. That's my favorite thing. I'm really passionate about it. And that y'all made my heart explode with happiness. That made me so happy. So then from there, just decide what you're going to do and what works for you. Commit to it and make your own definition of success and know that it doesn't have to look just like everyone else's. And whatever that success is for you, is success for all of Tennessee Extension and Extension Master Gardeners. And also know that you have what it takes, you are important, and you are what makes all of this possible. And at the end of the day, a real leader is someone that takes the time, puts in the work, and doesn't take themselves all too seriously. One of my best quotes I ever heard the other day in a leadership training was, a real leader is someone who is, or no, a true leader is someone who's always real, not someone who's always right. So that's the quote I'll leave you with today, and let you move on to your discussion groups.